God, yes, we have Louise back once again. It was we had to battle monsters and demons to get her back on here. It took quite a while. Um, Today, everyone, we love to talk about psychology. We love to talk about discipline. We love to talk about mindset. So that's what we're going to do. Louise, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself if people are new here and they haven't heard about you?
Yeah, of course. So welcome everybody. My name is Louise Nonwheeler. I'm a trading psychology expert and I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist. I'm the founder of Hypnosis for Traders and I've been a part of Maven for the last 2 years. And so I help traders with their mindset, psychology on a subconscious level and work with traders across the globe. So psychology is the most important part of trading. So
yeah, awesome. As we kind of introduce, I think your camera's just a little bit fuzzy. James, are you seeing that too?
No, yes, it is a little bit fuzzy.
Could you click on the little up arrow next to the video icon and just see if you can adjust that to like something else that maybe it's a little bit cleaner. As we introduce here, guys, I already have a beautiful question here, and actually, let's start with what a wonderful day for this psychology episode, because markets crashed across the board. Silver's down. It was down 10%. Gold was down 5%. NASDAQ was down 2%. Down on a NASDAQ's quite a bit. The only thing not crashing as hard as we thought it would was Bitcoin.
Yeah, I agree. And
right?
And obviously oil's up 8%, right? So yeah.
So sitting down on the chart this morning, my initial feeling was, oh no, I got to close everything. I just lost $1,000. I got to make sure I don't lose more, right? And then, Louise, I want to just hear your take on that at first glance. Like how would you react if that's what you've seen in the morning? You just lost 10% on your account, maybe.
So basically, that's fear coming in. That's that fear response, that perceived threat that's coming in during that time. So what's really important is to have a pause, even if it's a 3-second pause, take a couple of deep breaths during that time and just say to yourself, is this like emotional or is this rational? And basically it's tuning into with how your body's feeling as well. If your heart's racing, if your hand's clammy, that's a fear response. And the initial response or reaction is, I need to escape. I need to get out because, the feelings, the emotions are quite intense. So one of the things I would do is immediately come into your breath, take a couple of deep breaths, hold them in, exhale, and then you'll start to feel much more rational and calmer and make better decisions. But it's really important to have that pause before reacting during that time.
Yeah, that's where I'm really enjoying swing trading a lot better lately. It's because I can sit down on the chart. I can come late. I showed up late for the market open, half an hour late, sit down on the chart. Oh, lost a bunch of money. Go back, make some tea. Nothing's going to happen. Still nothing's happening. Okay, let's look. What's going on fundamentally? Was there news? No, there wasn't any news today, James, right?
No news today. There is NFP on Friday. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, overall, then I look at the fundamentals. I'm like, hey, nothing's going on, right? And I don't know about you, James, but I kind of got the feeling that this is just kind of a shakeout before the NFP.
Yeah, I think it's, I agree with that. I also think maybe markets are trying to rally yesterday and now they're just selling off just like they did on Monday. So kind of just, reacting to what's going on around the world. But I agree with that. I think just maybe a little bit of a flush down before NFP. I mean, I was actually looking at the charts now on the ES and the NASDAQ. We actually have been in quite a big range on the daily time frame for since December even. So, traders get quite nervous and scared when they see the NASDAQ down 2%, but it actually could be good potential positions because when volatility is high, actually day traders like to thrive on that volatility. At least for me.
Yeah, it's the unexpected volatility that gets us.
Correct. Yeah. There was actually a good question, Louise, in the chat here. I think this is something that I've been working on as well, because I think like what you do for traders is great to actually hire a performance coach on a monthly basis as well. But
Yeah.
a question in the chat was, how can I be less anxious when trading? I think that was a great question.
There's many different tools and techniques that traders should have in their toolkit. Every trader should have a toolkit, and most of them are free. You know, I think meditation is obviously not whilst you're trading, but meditation can really help to calm the mind. It has long-term benefits, short-term benefits, but I think it's always important to try and identify the root cause or causes as to why, you know, the trader's feeling anxious during trading. Most traders feel anxious or feel fearful during trading. You know, the markets are fast, it's quick decisions, you're activating different areas of the brain, you know, so there's a lot going on for traders during their, you know, real time. So I think to answer the question, there's many different tools and techniques: breath work, meditation, hypnosis, visualization, even before, to just visualize feeling calm, you know, before, you know, whilst trading. So, but like I said, it's good to try and get to the root cause as to why the person's feeling anxious. And I don't recommend drinking a load of caffeine before trading.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Unless maybe green tea, it's got the theanine, it might be able to calm you down, right?
Yeah. There's actually mushrooms. To answer that question as well from our side, from a trader side, what I've been doing personally, and it's been working pretty well, is actually just sizing down my risk, not having to be so overexposed. Like, for example, if your normal size is risking $1,000 a trade, dial that back down to like even $500, $300 a trade, and work your way up to a sizing where you feel comfortable.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's giving it that gradual exposure. So every level you go up, it works. It's gradual exposure therapy. It's really good. And I agree. And another thing is scalping versus swing trading. You know, scalping can be really intense for a lot of traders.
It can be, for sure.
So you said an interesting word. You said get to the root cause. So I'd like to maybe do like a little bit of let's do a little bit of a role play of, like, you know, some of the problems that we might have, and then let's dive into how we would find those root causes. Because I think a lot of traders, they see the problem, but they don't know how to get to the solution, right? Other than, you know, somebody saying, hey, you should like exactly what James said, you should size down, right? Or you should walk away from the chart, or limit yourself to one trade per day. You know, these are obvious solutions that somebody might not be able to actually do, right? So maybe let's start with that first one where, hey, I'm an anxious trader. What questions should I ask myself to determine what the root cause is?
I think it's the elimination process. You know, it's called the elimination process. So what they can ask themselves is how they feel when they trade demo or paper. If they feel differently, if they feel calmer, then there's potentially some attachment to either the P&L or their identity. Generally, it's identity.
Okay.
More than P&L. Funny.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say the most probable one, let's say, is identity. So I got my ego attached to it and I really want to be right. And I realized that, hey, I don't really care about the money. I'm only risking $20, right? But I really, like, you know, I told my friends this would go up, right? and I have to be right. What should I do?
There's a problem with the belief system.
Yeah.
So that generally comes from a belief that potentially I don't feel good enough. I need validation. I need to prove that I'm right. That's generally, you know, the ego can come in for many different reasons. You know, it can cause a fight or flight in trading, but generally you have to always go back to your belief system. What is your belief about yourself? Generally, they come from childhood. I know this is quite deep stuff, but it's really important stuff. Everything, even fear, we're only born with one fear, and everything, even fear, comes from the belief system. So we always have to kind of try and identify. Now, I'm going to be very honest, it can be challenging and difficult to try and identify exactly what the beliefs are or the core beliefs. But there are a good couple of core beliefs that is the most common on this planet. And one of them is, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving. And guess what? It will show up in trading.
Yeah. Yeah, you betcha. I think I like to think of trading as a physical manifestation of who we are on the inside, right? Or what our beliefs are, right? Because you instantly get feedback on your performance of how stable you are and whatnot, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. So I'm not good enough, right? You know, you said it, not me. Okay. What do I do to make myself feel valued without having external validation?
It's not an overnight thing. If a person has had this belief since they were a child, and we're talking decades, and that's generally where they come from, you have to work on it. It's consistent work. And there's many different techniques that you can do. You know, affirmations are good, but you have to go a lot deeper. You have to really work out, try and identify where this has come from, why you believe this is to be true. You know, beliefs are literally stories we give meaning to. But what happens is, over time, every day, all day, we are looking constantly for evidence to reinforce that belief. And so by the time we get to adulthood with this belief, we're never going to go for the promotion. We may have a bad relationship with money and so forth. It manifests in different ways, and it manifests in trading as well. Like, for instance, it can cause like something called a money blueprint with traders, where they will only reach a certain level and then they will self-sabotage. So to answer your question, there's many different ways. I mean, hypnosis is a great way, meditation, affirmations, visualization, mirror work, where you look in the mirror and you say to yourself, you know what, I'm enough. The key here is repetition. When you do something consistently, it will become subconscious. So you'll start to feel, yeah, actually, you know what, I'm good enough. And over time, it will just compound.
Awesome. I love it. That's great. James, what's another problem? Like, do you want to do another one? Maybe. What's another problem that you have as a trader?
I would say also, this is something that I've struggled with as well, is making the same mistake over and over again, whether that's over trading or oversizing. I think a lot of traders, they fall back to like their root problem, essentially. What is something that you've helped traders with in terms of like stopping repeating the same mistakes?
Good one.
Okay, so the first thing is self-awareness. Now, I think the three most important S's in trading is self-awareness, self-belief, and self-compassion. So you need those three around this. So making the mistakes, number one, you need to be aware. Obviously, you're aware that you're making them, but it's kind of working out the pattern and the behavior and the reasons why. What are you gaining from it? You know, because we're creatures of habit. We love repetition, but there's always a way to break that pattern. There's always a way. Again, you have to be aware in that present moment when you're making that mistake. Take a pause and say to yourself, why is this happening? It's almost like breaking your state and then shifting, even saying something to shift out of it. There's also a really good technique, actually, that it's scientifically proven, and it's called the elastic band technique. And so basically, when you're in that moment and you're making that mistake, you can flick this on your wrist, and it starts to change the neural pathways in the brain, so you can shift out of this pattern.
Really?
Yes, it's amazing. I mean, yeah, therapists use this around the planet, CBT therapists. So it's the I call it the elastic band technique, but it basically is anchoring. You're anchoring something different. You're kind of breaking the state as well. But do that for 21 days.
So every time you make a mistake that you don't like, is that it?
But it goes deeper than that. Chris. So you
I
do
know,
this,
but-
and then you take a pause and say to yourself, I am choosing to remove this pattern, or something that's really powerful and direct, and then maybe walk away and come back. Eventually, over time, that pattern or behavior where you're making mistakes, it will lose energy.
Now, let me ask you a question. If the pain is more significant, am I more likely to learn faster?
It depends. If sometimes there's something called a secondary gain. If you enjoy pain, if there is a belief, if you believe that you're not good enough, then maybe you're going to hold on to it longer, because it's a form of self-sabotage.
Is that similar to that dog whistle experiment where you blow the whistle and feed the dog, blow the whistle, feed the dog?
Similar.
And then the dog, okay.
Yeah,
And the dog associates the whistle with. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay, so to further into what James's problem is he was saying, he keeps making the same mistake. So we've identified that maybe it's a situation of him not feeling good enough. Is there any other way to I guess ultimately it's kind of coming down to the same exact issue as the first one. The anxiety is you need to build these habits over a long period of time, right? You need to believe that you're able to do this. You need to what was the I'm blanking on the last one there. You had basically just said you have to just keep creating these habits that you do believe that you can do it, correct?
Yes, absolutely. It's reframing as well. I mean, James, do you want to kind of emphasize more about what the mistakes or the mistake is?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a couple of examples. So like one of my mistakes that I used to do quite often was like I'll take a payout from an account, and I saw one of the questions there in the chat as well. I'll take speaking specifically on prop firms, I'll take a payout on an account, and then all of a sudden I'd start oversizing again and get myself into drawdown instead of like just continue to trade the same way over and over again. And that's why I think, Hunter, you can probably also speak on this about how traders take a payout and then they blow the account up. That's basically what I would do. Yeah. And I think in terms of that, I think guys are just becoming overconfident after taking that payout, right? I think that was a massive one for me. Yeah. It's like the job was done, but actually in trading, there's no finish line. I think that's kind of like was a big one for me. I had to realize that you got to continue doing the same thing over and over again.
Let me ask you a deeper question before Louise answers here. Do you think it's an invincibility complex of like, oh, I did it, I can do anything now? Or do you think it's the goal's finished, so let's have fun?
I think it's that. I think it's the latter. Like the goal's finished, I got my payout, it's done. Now I can, like my concentration would kind of like diminish because I'm like, okay, I got the payout, the job was done, and now I don't really care, which is obviously a bad way to think of it.
So what you need to learn to do is you need to learn to decompartmentalize. And what I mean by that is basically you can kind of reward yourself and feel those feelings away from trading. Trading, as we know, is a business. I know Chris sometimes says it's not always that. But I think it's decompartmentalize and say to yourself, okay, well, I'm going to step away. I'm going to kind of go for a nice meal or, offload, if you like, away from trading because it's not working, obviously.
Yeah.
Celebrate in a different way.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Hey, got the payout. Let's spend the money instead of let's blow the account.
Yeah. The opposite.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I think, from my perspective, I've actually just got on one scaling plan on one of these prop firms too. So I think like I've realized like the job's never done. You just got to continue doing the same thing over and over again every single day. There's no real finish line. Right. Yeah. And I think the more you realize that, the better. You got to think about tomorrow. You don't just want to mess around and that, especially that lapse of concentration. I have like a pre-market routine that I have to do every single morning to get myself in the zone to actually trade. Luckily, I live on a good time zone, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, when you're swing trading, West Coast is amazing.
Yeah,
West
sure.
Coast is amazing for swing trading. I'm realizing it is the best time zone for swing trading. You get to wake up, kind of right around market open, take your time, have some tea. You're done by noon. You only work a few hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And then you also get to see the market open right around dinner time. So you get to see that craziness. Anyways, I seen a question here right at the very start of the live stream. It was actually fantastic. I had to write it down by Hanak. Hanak G. How do I stop my brain from seeing a normal trading loss as a personal failure or threat to my safety? Wow.
Good question.
Great question.
The nervous system. That's a great question. And it's something that I'm really, really invested in. And it is all to do with the nervous system. So basically, a lot of people on this planet, unfortunately, at the moment, are living in a state of survival. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, what happens is when our nervous system is continuously under stress, it just adds another layer to the nervous system of stress, and we're like more people are in that fight or flight. So that sounds like a real nervous system response. Now, I always say this to traders. I think my belief is the two most important systems in trading, and don't get me wrong, obviously it's important to have a good strategy and risk management, the belief system and the nervous system. Every trader should learn how to understand both of these systems and invest in them. Now, the reason why I believe most traders go on tilt and self-sabotage is because the nervous system is under stress and it's the reaction. No affirmation is going to get you out of that situation. And so I think to answer the trader's question, the person's question is basically to start to work with the nervous system, to start to kind of reset and heal it. Now, there's many different ways. Even walking in nature can help to calm the nervous system. But it's really important to, again, have this toolkit of ways to keep the nervous system calm. It can take up to 24 hours for the nervous system after a trading session to go back and be regulated. And breath work can really get the nervous system. It gives a signal to the nervous system, I'm feeling calm, we're good, we're safe. So, I would work with breath work, number one, and start with the deep breathing, intentional breathing to calm the nervous system, and that will reduce the anxiety and panic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. I'm just seeing another question from him too, and I think it's the same sort of thing. Is he's how can I stop one losing trade from making me feel like I've lost my entire skill, right? That I think might be a slightly different question. Do you have a variation on that, or is it same thing?
I think it could be linked. There's definitely probably a strong link, but there's also a strong link by the sounds of it to identity, but also looking at the person's financial situation as well. Does that trade really matter? Have they gone from their job or career to solely trading, and trading is just their only income? That can be an immense amount of pressure for anyone. So it's looking at the different reasons why. And again, asking the question, how do I trade on demo? Do I feel calmer? But it sounds like it could be linked to potentially either the P&L or identity again, or the system.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think what you said, what we were talking about a little bit earlier about putting like your identity in your trading as well is a massive one. That's something that I also struggled with. Like if you had a winning day, you're like, yes, I'm crushing it. Then if you have a losing day, you feel down in that. But I think that's probably, you have like a roller coaster of emotions. I think that's also why a lot of traders sometimes have like good streaks where they do well, and then they have like periods where they don't, because they're trying to prove something to others where actually you don't really need to,
Absolutely. It's like a ship in the ocean without an anchor. They're like this, you're like this. It doesn't work. Every trader needs to create their own edge and identity. It has to be built. You can't go in and say, I just trade. because you're going to have those wobbles.
Yeah.
You're going to have to say, I'm a trader who does this, who believes this. You know, you have to own it. You have to have that identity, because you're going to wobble in those times of a loss or even a market reversal.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, when I've done a little bit of work with my audience, and you know, some of the questions that come up are, you know, they're FOMOing into trades, or they're holding trades too long. I just want to get your take on, because there was like 2 or 3 different problems at the root cause of these different things. We're talking a lot about identity and ego, and I think if you're FOMOing in, or you have more of a greed sort of mentality, that might be a different root cause, right? What's kind of your take on, you know, people are over trading, over risking, FOMOing, that sort of thing?
That's another good question. Again, it's like, why, asking yourself the question, deep questioning, why am I doing this? Like, what's going on? It's like, it's almost like kind of getting a spade and digging deep and deep, and effective questioning as to why you're doing it. What emotions are coming up? What's, you know, are there even any memories that are linked, childhood memories that are linked to it? Sometimes it's called replication, where there's a memory that is associated with an emotion. I know I'm going a bit deep here, but I think, again, it's, you know, we're emotional beings. We have emotions. It's not good to suppress emotions, even in trading. And I know a lot of traders like to do that. I understand. But it's the reasons why, you know, I think the ego is a big thing. I think the ego can come in a lot, and it's like that can cause things like greed, over trading, revenge trading, proving that I'm right. You know,
Sure.
It's almost like, you know, the fight, flight, freeze. You've got the fight. And to be honest, I've noticed more in male traders than female traders that they will come in and fight. The female traders will freeze. That's what I've noticed a lot as well. So to answer your question, I think it's really just, again, just being aware of what's going on, try and dig deep, ask effective questioning, and break the state, start breaking this pattern, because a lot of traders feel like they're not in control. We are in control. Every trader's in control, but you have to learn the ways and techniques to change and shift things.
There's another good question here in the chat. Hunter, you can maybe also speak on this because you'll have the data behind it. But if I'm on my final trade to pass my challenge and already above the profit target, is closing the trade early before TP a smart decision, or just fear-based psychology? I think, you know, you just got to take it. Basically, traders get close to passing the profit target, and then they mess it up on the last. And that's happened to me a few times, for sure. I think you just got to take it one day at a time and trade like you normally would, you know?
I agree, but sometimes that can be easier said than done. Like, it's with the same, like with the prop firms, you get to the certain, like, last $50.
Yes.
And then it's that pressure coming in. It's, you know, it's like forcing trades and things like that. But again, it's happened. The first thing is self-awareness of the pattern.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I got one more question, and then maybe we can switch gears to, I'd like to quickly chat about what we were talking about before the stream is, you know, you're doing a metal detox fast. But there's one more question here that I rather like, is by Well-Wisher. What cognitive biases most commonly destroy a trader's performance? I like this one.
Recency bias. There's so many different biases, isn't there? There's so many different biases, and what biases do? They change perception.
Yeah.
You can almost see different things in the market that are not actually there. So I think there's many loss aversion. There's many different biases, isn't there? But
Sure.
yeah, there's I can't think off the top of my head the different ones, but
recency bias.
It's being aware of those biases.
Yeah. And another one would be like kind of herd mentality sort of thing, right? Is you're going to be biased. Just, it's one of the most difficult things to overcome is, you know, you see a comment like, I wouldn't buy Bitcoin now. What do you mean? Why would I want to listen to you? Right? But then ultimately it makes you doubt yourself. And you're like, oh, nobody else is buying Bitcoin. You know, nobody else is selling Bitcoin at 120K, right? So maybe I should question myself. Why am I crazy? Yeah. Anyways,
I think it's a fine line there, isn't it, Chris? You know, I think if it's somebody that's obviously walks the talk, then it's like if they're successful in their own right, then you're going to kind of naturally second guess yourself and go, well, actually, should I make this decision? But it's finding that balance and having boundaries.
Yeah. Let's switch the gears and briefly talk about, you know, I suppose things you can do in your life that will make you more aware of, you know, these biases or these emotions or, you know, different things. And you know, the one I wanted to talk about, because I'm personally curious myself, is you know, your heavy metal stuff. Let's go into that. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Before we do, I want to just emphasize and just say that I'm not a medical doctor, but this is from my personal experience and obviously being in this field for many different years. So what I like to do once a year is I do a heavy metal detox, and then after a while I'll do a parasite cleanse. Now, going on to the heavy metals, I'm not sure so much in the Eastern world, but in the Western world, there's a lot of heavy metals. A lot of people have a lot of metals in their body. You know, the main ones are lead, mercury, even arsenic, aluminium, and we can get that from so many different things, obviously our environment. And so when we're overloaded with metals in our body, in our system, it can cause many different physical symptoms, brain fog, it can affect our cognitive function, it can cause depression, it can affect, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And there are a huge amount of studies from people who do heavy metal detoxes. It's always important, if the person does it, that they work with a practitioner or they get the right supplements. But it's night and day. After that detox, you will feel lighter, brighter. Your cognitive function is just like skyrocket. So that's one of the things that I like to do. And yeah, I recommend that everyone do it, you know, if they can, once a year at least.
So what does it involve?
Well, there's different ways to do it. I mean, the way I do it, I work with a natural pharmacist. I get her products, but you can do it through even certain herbs. I can't remember the exact herbs, but I think it's garlic, wormwood. But I would always recommend that the person, if they're doing it, that they go to somebody who's reputable, or they seek from a good company the herbs, and they know they've done their research basically on this, because when you detox the body, you can feel pretty lousy for a while, maybe a week, a couple of weeks, because you're detoxing all of that out of the body. But it's a good thing. It's really good.
Yeah, I think if I detox with just garlic, I'm going to be also detoxing from friends and family. Nobody's going to be around me for 2 weeks.
Well, it's a mix. It's a mix of different herbs.
Yeah,
but it's very good. Very good for us.
We've talked a lot about fasting and these sort of detox. If you just fasted, would it perform the same way, or is this these supplements more beneficial?
No, I mean, I'm a huge advocate of fasting. I know you are too, Chris. And you know, it's different. You know, you're detoxing the heavy metals that are in the body, mercury as well. You know, you're getting them out of the system, out of the body, and the results can be miraculous. Really, I mean, for traders, the cognitive function can potentially skyrocket.
Yeah.
Memory, it helps with memory. Because you think it's the gut is linked to the brain, and it's, if we're holding all that heavy toxic stuff in the body, you can imagine what it's doing.
I'm definitely going to have to try something like this. Now, tell us about the parasite cleanse. Is there a bunch of worms in me, or?
Yeah. Quite possibly, yeah. So, yeah, and the worms, I mean, they I would say, doing a parasite cleanse can be, I don't know, but everyone's different, but a parasite cleanse, it can, again, cause a lot of different physical symptoms, digestive problems, vomiting, again, brain fog, because you think you've got that in the gut. And it is linked to certain autoimmune diseases as well. The EBV, actually that's different, that's a virus. But with the parasite cleanse, again, it's sourcing the right supplements, the right practitioner, if you're going to go ahead and do that.
Mm-hmm. Right on. Okay, interesting. I'm going to have to look into this more on my own time and see if we can.
This is interesting stuff.
I'm a bit cautious because I don't want to be throwing a bunch of just chemicals in my body hoping that they take out other chemicals, right?
No, it's all natural, Chris. It's not. Yeah, I mean, the stuff I use personally, it's all natural. Most of it is, a lot of people use what's from the ground, what's from Mother Earth. So you don't kind of use chemicals to get rid of it. It's all natural products, basically.
Yeah, all right. Cool. You'll have to send me afterwards the products you use so I can take a peek. James, do we have any more questions on your end?
I don't see any other ones here. I think we've had quite a few good questions in the chat this morning, I must say.
Yeah. Maybe we'll wrap it up there, because I think we had some really solid questions, and I'd like to just kind of, without us going into more, I'd like those really important things at the start of the podcast really just sit with people, right? Louise, is there anything else you wanted to add that might be useful for people?
I think we've pretty much covered a great deal today. But for me, I think to every trader out there, if you can invest in your, look into the nervous system and how it affects you when you're trading, look at ways, even the free simple things, the techniques that can really help with your mindset, with your performance, because there's many different tools and techniques, as we mentioned. But no, apart from that, I just wish everyone the best of luck in the markets.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Louise. We're going to get you back in probably a couple months. It's kind of our theme. Guys, we do a podcast every single Tuesday at 11 a.m. EST. That's the New York time zone. The winner of the 50K Maven account will be posted in the Discord. And as well, I'm going to link Louise's X profile so that you can follow her in the Discord as well. Thank you so much, Louise. Thanks, James.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.